I am Eric.
And I'm Matt.
And this is Ranking 76, where we will be attempting to rank the most notorious and infamous Western figures in American history from the start of 1776 to the closing of the 1800s. If you are familiar with podcasts such as Totalis Rankium or Pontifex or our Podfathers in Chief, Rex Factor, you're very familiar with what we're going to try to accomplish. We will be selecting our figures and going through their biography, and then we will be judging them based off of 5 rounds: biography, their character, if they were crazy or cunning, how well we would do in a draw, and then their legacy. Figures who we will not be covering, or in order for them to get an episode, there's only 5 rules, and they're wonderfully vague so that we can break them sometimes. Their actions have to, what they are being famous for, have to have happened after 1776, hence the 76 in the title. Those actions have to be famous outside of the original 13 colonies in the United States. It has to be in a U.S. controlled territory. So think Louisiana Purchase. We can't do anyone in the Mexican territory. It has to be United States territory. Also, no presidents. There's a lot of American president podcasts. Go listen to them. And then finally, we're going to limit the amount of Civil War heroes simply because there's also a lot of Civil War podcasts, and we will touch on the Civil War. It is kind of the event in our podcast for a lot of our figures' lives, so we're not going to go into them a whole lot, but we will definitely be touching on the Civil War. Our podcast will not be linear because we are not doing the presidents or all of the French monarchs or everyone in a row. We have the ability to bunch around. That means we will probably match up anniversaries or birthdays, or simply because we want to talk about them that day. All right, our methodology, we kind of touched on in the beginning, but we will begin scoring our figure by the first 5 rounds: biography, character, and their craziness. After these rounds are finished, we will continue judging them, but with a slight twist. Based on their scores being positive or negative, we will continue to add up their scores accordingly through the rest of the rounds. If he or she figures a negative point, that figure will no longer score positive points. So when we judge them on a round that we will call draw, when we explain that later, they will continue to subtract from our scoring.
The first round is the biography round, which we have titled, Are You Satisfied? Basically, after Eric explains and goes through their history, we will decide how well we enjoyed their biography. So picture you're watching a movie. How likely are you to buy a ticket to see them? Did we enjoy their story? Was their life exciting? Did they have a positive or negative impact on the American history? All of these things will be considered for this round. And as Eric kind of mentioned, this round will be scored between -10 and +10. The highest possible score the figure will get is a 20, lowest obviously a -20. A score of 0 we will be considering neutral, which means they didn't impress us or unimpress us. Obviously, if they're positive, we believe they were impressive or that their actions had a positive impact on American history. Negative means we didn't like him or they were just a bad person.
All right. Scoring round number 2, that word character that we are titling, Be Sure You Are Right. Then go ahead. Very similar, not similar to our biography round, but we're more focusing on them as a character. Were they good in nature? Were they a real mean son of a... The difference between this round and Are You Satisfied is we are judging them how they were reacted on their surroundings. Did they do what that was right, or just do what was right for them? We may also consider other personality traits and help to consider our answer. Again, just like Are You Satisfied, Matt and I will each be able to hand out points from -10 to +10, with a max score of -20 and +20 in this round. Negative scores will be given to those who we do not believe are very honorable. High scores, while not making our figure an angel, will reflect the high honor.
And then the final round before we dish out some different points is round 3, which is titled To Hell with the Consequences. So again, we're kind of going down smaller and how crazy they were. Were they a good crazy or were they a bad crazy? Were they clever or were they just plain stupid? Eric and I, again, -10 to +10. Was this person just downright crazy and just decided to kill anyone they came across? Or, did they have some cunning and they were able to outsmart the people that might have been after them? Did they have some crazy quirks that makes us relate to them? The low scores will reflect on their actions and how damaging they were to themselves or others. Basically, if they murdered without thought and liked it, we're going to give them a low score. High scores will go to those who are clever and lovable.
All right. So now after this round, we're going to kind of freeze and we're going to lock in scores. So if our figure after the end of these first rounds has a cumulative score that is negative, so let's just say -4. After draw, that score is locked in. From here on out, if it's -4, we will continue to subtract points. The rounds from here on out, well, we will just be handing out a score from 0 to 10. And again, if a person's score is negative, they will continue to subtract. If a person's score is positive, we will continue to add on. We will then go into our bonus points.
All right, so the fourth round we will be titled Draw. Basically, how well Eric and I did or would do in a duel with this figure. I want to make it clear, neither Eric or I believe we would actually win in any duel with anyone. But how likely are we to, maybe we can talk them out of actually killing us and maybe just, walking away with a slight wound or just maybe a gentleman's agreement to stay out of town. So the scoring will be 0 if we would walk away, 5 maybe they would hurt us, or 10 means we're as good as dead, buried in the ground.
Okay. From here, we'll go on to our final round where Matt and I will be handing out scores from 0 to 10, and we're calling this score Legacy. How well do these figures hold up by today's standards? Have we heard of them before I have researched the episode? And had Matt heard of them before I mentioned them in the title? Are we about to forget them? Are we ever going to think about this person ever again? Where would they sit in today's standards? From here, we will go on to our bonus points.
The bonus point round after the legacy round will be Counting Coop. Basically, it's pretty straightforward. We are judging this round on basically how many confirmed-ish people did this individual kill. That number will be added up and divided by 10. So, for example, if they killed 30 people, they will score a total of 3 points.
Yeah. From here, in our final, we can give them basically bonus for a spectacular death. If they die of old age at 80 years old, we're not going to give them anything. If maybe they died in a shootout, but it wasn't a particularly impressive shootout, but it'll hopefully be more spectacular than my death, we'll give them a 1. Or if they just went down in a blaze of glory, then we will hand them out possibly 2 points. Again, think of Counting Coup in this round more as tiebreaker points rather than what their score is, so we can differentiate figures in case there is a tie. Once we get the final scores, we will then now have a scoring range from -100 to 100, not including the bonus points, which may add up to about 5, possibly 10 points, depending on if they're a murdering psychopath. This ranking will help establish their seating in what will be a tournament at the end. After we finish our 76 figures, Matt and I are actually going to be drafting these men and women onto our supposed teams.
Think of it like Pokemon, where we both will have a roster of champions and we will be going up head to head with each other.
We will be able to draft these figures. We'll go back and forth. We will then have a maximum roster of 20 after we get a full roster. So after basically the 40th person, we will then have to drop a person in order to draft someone else. everyone who is not on a team is just going to be in a free agent pool that we are able to pick up if we would like at a later date. Hopefully, this will add some strategy. And if my fantasy football record has any indication, Matt's going to win this hands down. Okay, so that's going to bring us to the end of our round episode. Hopefully, this is dropping in your feed and you're listening to this. If Matt and I have accomplished a thing, um, this should hopefully pop in your feed before our first episode comes out. Expect us to be in there maybe one more time before we actually start our official biographies. But finally, before we head out here, I did want to take just a couple of moments to thank Jerry Landry from the podcast Presidencies of the United States and Rob from Totalis Rankium for being so generous with their time and their answers, helping us with all of our questions and just how to navigate how to put together a podcast. They have been more than helpful, and I cannot thank them enough for their time. Yeah.
And then, as always, if you liked what you will listen to, or if you think this will be interesting, we do have a Facebook page. It is Ranking 76, the American West podcast. Go ahead and give us a follow if you would. And we are also going to be on Instagram, hopefully by the time you listen to this. And we do have an email. We will take any feedback that would be very helpful. And our email address is ranking76pod@gmail.com. As always, I'm Matt.
And I'm Eric.
We'll see you next time.